Hi, Eliana. I see your comment in the Q&A. So the webinar got scheduled in Zoom webinar, and I can't I can't at this point have you be a panelist. I'm sorry. In fact, we've been trying to do more of our webinars in meeting because it facilitates a little bit easier the interactiveness. But so for today, yeah, if you have any questions or any comments, just feel free to um, write them in the chat. I am recording it. I just started to record it, so um, it is getting recorded, and then I will send a recording to everyone who registered for the webinar. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing my slides. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the the Able Savings Plan webinar. My name is Mary Rubenis, and I do outreach and partnership building on Attainable, the Able Savings Plan. I work for MEFA, and we are the state sponsor, and Fidelity Investments is the program manager. And so what that means is if you're interested in opening one of these, you're going to do it through Fidelity, and you can do it online. And so I actually put the link to do that in the chat, in the Q&A, in the chat rather. So feel free to grab it, and I'll also mention it later on in the webinar. And so before we get started, I'll just share a little bit about myself and about the work that I do. So I do outreach and education around the program, strategic partnership building with local, state organizations, employers around the benefits of having an ABLE account. I am very passionate about helping families and individuals with disabilities in any way I can. You know, if I can connect you with somebody else in the disability space, resources, benefits counseling, I'm happy to do that. And I also do presentations on the program to national organizations as well. And then lastly, I am a mom of a daughter with a disability, so I'm very familiar with, understand the journey and the challenge of finding resources that can help your loved one. So I'm happy to help in any way that I can. So a little about MEFA and what we do. We are a nonprofit state authority created in 1982, and our mission is to help families plan, save, and pay for college. We do that through a variety of ways or methods, and it's a lot of just free guidance around the whole process of college planning, college savings. We do offer a couple of tax advantage savings plans. Attainable is one of those. And we also do private student loans as well. And so a little about the partnership between MEFA and Fidelity and how that came about. We began the partnership with them back in 1999 when we chose them to be the program manager for the 529 College Savings Program, which is called the U Fund. And so when Attainable, the Able Savings Plan, was launched in 2017, it was natural for us to partner with them to manage the accounts for us as well. Obviously, we chose them for their expertise in money management, and they've just been a great partner for the program, both locally and nationally, trying to spread awareness about the benefits of ABLE and what these accounts can provide. And so a little history for you in terms of what the ABLE Act is and how this legislation came about. So the acronym ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience, or ABLE Act, and it amended the federal tax code back in 2014 to add this section 529A, or an ABLE account, to that tax code. So it's in the same tax code as a regular 529 college savings plan. The legislation established these ABLE accounts, which are a tax-exempt account for an eligible individual with a disability to be used for qualified disability expenses while still keeping the eligibility for federal public benefits. That was really the real push to get ABLE passed. If you are on federal benefits, it helps you to save over $2,000. And so you don't have to be on federal benefits in order to open one of these, but if you are, there's a real benefit to having an ABLE account. And so Who's eligible for an ABLE account? What's the eligibility criteria? So there is an age component to it. And so the disability has to have occurred prior to the age of 26. And then if you're getting SSI or SSDI due to your disability, you're eligible to open an ABLE account. Or if you have some type of disability that's listed on Social Security's list of compassionate allowances, you're going to qualify. And then lastly, self-certification. So you have some type of mental health, intellectual, developmental disability, again, that Social Security lists in their Blue Book, you're going to be eligible to open an ABLE account. And again, as long as you're meeting the age requirement prior to the age of 26, the disability occurred. And so some of the qualified expenses that you can use an ABLE account for, this is a list of qualified expenses, pretty broad category of things like healthcare, housing, you can use it to pay your rent, pay your mortgage, educational expenses, transportation, so buying a car, but not just that, you can also use it for Uber and Lyft, which is pretty great, assistive technology, employment training, personal support services, PCA, you can use it to pay for that type of expense. And then lastly, basic living needs. So things like food, clothing, you can use your ABLE account to pay for that as well. And so some of the benefits of an attainable account, this kind of gives you a sort of a brief benefit sort of synopsis, but an ABLE account is owned by the individual with the disability. So they are the account owner or beneficiary on the account. It allows that individual to save over $2,000 without it affecting federal benefits like SSI if they receive those benefits. And the one thing I'll mention here, I'll stop. If you have a child that might need an ABLE account, you can set it up with what's called a person with signature authority attached to the account so they can manage it for that dependent or child. And that individual has to be a parent, a guardian, or a power of attorney to be the PSA on the account. So the child would be the account owner or the beneficiary on the ABLE account, and then a parent, a guardian, or power of attorney could be attached to manage it for that individual. I'll just mention that here. Or it could be if an adult wasn't able to manage the account themselves, same situation, you would have the PSA attached to manage it for them. So like I just mentioned, the account is owned by the individual with the disability, and then anyone can contribute to an attainable account, including family, friends, that individual, if they're working, the account owner, they can contribute as well. You have immediate access to the funds in an ABLE account. And then it does provide the individual with the disability really financial independence because it's allowing you to save, and also multiple tax benefits. And I'll talk about what those are in an upcoming slide. And so some account specifics related to attainable. This is across the board nationwide in terms of contribution amount, what you can put in. And there are currently over 40 plans nationwide, ABLE programs nationwide. The annual contribution cap as to what you could put into one of these in a calendar year in 12 months is $15,000. So you can save, you can contribute, I should say, up to $15,000 in a calendar year, 12 months in your ABLE account. If the beneficiary or account owner is working, they can add up to $12,760 additionally on top of that 15 to bring it up to $27,760 if they're working. The one thing to keep in mind if someone does want to take advantage of this, and this additional contribution amount is attributed to the Able to Work Act or legislation, which allows you to put in more as the beneficiary. You can't also participate in the employer's retirement plan and take advantage of this Able to Work Act. I know there's questions coming in. I'm going to take them at the end if that's okay, just so I can get through the slides. So you just can't do both. You have to pick one or the other. The max that you can put into an attainable account is $500,000. So the account balance can't exceed $500,000. And then SSI, if you are getting that, you can save up to $100,000 with no impact on your SSI. And then lastly, there's no annual account fee on the Attainable Savings Plan. There's no annual fee associated with our program. This is a screenshot of the portfolios and what they look like. I'm just gonna move myself down here. They range, there's about 8 of them, and they start at the top, the money market, so a low risk money market, and then they just get more aggressive in growth. They are a mix of stocks and bonds and short-term securities. The higher percentage of stocks is going to be potential for higher return, but also potential for higher risk. Again, you're going to choose based on your risk tolerance, and the folks at Fidelity can help you to, best select what's going to be, the most appropriate one for yourself, obviously. And you can go to the Fidelity site to learn more. You can change the allocation on these up to twice a year. But again, going to be based on your risk tolerance in terms of what you might select and what works for you. There, like I mentioned, there's no annual account maintenance fee on the program, but there are investment fees like there are in a regular 529 on the portfolios for them to get managed. And so those fees range from 0.57% of assets to 0.94% of assets. So less than 1% fee on the portfolio, again, as a fee to manage that for you. These are some of the tax benefits that I mentioned a little bit earlier in an earlier slide. The first one essentially allows you to roll over from a regular 529 college savings plan into an ABLE account with no tax or penalty up to $15K in a calendar year in 12 months, provided the beneficiary is the same on both accounts, on the 529 and on the ABLE account, or the beneficiary is a family member of the other. So it could be a sibling's 529 that they aren't going to use, or was overfunded. You can roll over into the ABLE account up to $15K in a 12-month period with no tax or penalty. So we see this a lot sometimes with students who may have had a 529 funded by a grandparent or parents and realize they're not going to go to school, or it's been overfunded, or siblings unused 529, you can now roll over, which is great. The next one is a savers credit, and it allows an ABLE account owner who meets certain criteria, which is essentially your adjusted gross income, how much you're making in a year, to take a tax credit based on your income and your contribution into your ABLE account on your federal taxes. There's a cap on it, I believe, for a single person, it's $2,000. So if you put in $2,000 in your ABLE account, you could potentially, based on how much you're making, your income, potentially take a $2,000 tax credit on your taxes. In order to be eligible for this, the individual has to be 18 or older, not a full-time student, and not claimed as a dependent on another person's return to take advantage of this savers credit. And then lastly, just to highlight the benefit, just in terms of how you're spending the money, the withdrawals, the account growth, I should say, as long as those withdrawals are spent on qualified disability expenses, all the account growth on Attainable in this ABLE account is federal income tax free, and also for Massachusetts residents, state income tax free as well. So you're not going to pay federal or Mass state income taxes on the earnings, the account growth in an ABLE account, as long as you're spending it on qualified expenses. This is a video I thought I would share. It's really impactful to see how people are using the accounts. And I met Brian Gway and his mom, Ann Gway, a while back, and I really wanted to share their story. We were able to do that. And locally, Channel 5 ended up doing a story on Brian. So I thought I would share the video so you could see how he's been using the account and how it's been helpful for him. So I'm just going to play this quick video.
That's me.
Brian Gway can picture his future.
This is my brain's idea Brian Austin Gray is the next generation in a long line of farmers.
Brian may have autism, but today at age 25, Brian only accepts two labels, artist and farmer.
I'm gonna have my farmer's business someday.
To achieve that dream, his mom Ann explained he needed a plan.
So he got this idea that he should be able to save money.
Brian also got 3 jobs.
This is my work schedule.
6 days a week, Brian works at Home Goods, a goat farm, and a horse barn. But for people with disabilities, saving those paychecks can be complicated.
Brian benefits from a lot of public services, and there were restrictions as to how much money he could have in his name.
That changed in 2014 with a federal law nicknamed the ABLE Act. It provided a new option for people with disabilities to build a fund for both short-term and long-term expenses.
You can save, and the interest that you earn on these accounts is not taxed.
Similar to a 529 plan for college funds, MEFA offers an ABLE account called the Attainable Savings Plan. It has no minimums, no fees, and there are no worries about losing Medicaid or Supplemental Security income benefits. Fidelity manages the investment portfolio, but unlike a 529 plan, ABLE account holders can withdraw amounts at any time without penalty.
Right around 3,000 folks have begun to save. We're seeing the average account balance is about $8,000, which is pretty healthy when you consider it's a relatively short time frame.
Now that Brian has an account, he deposits about $1,000 each month from his paychecks.
He's saved a substantial amount of money. And our dream is to look into other opportunities, whether that be we purchase a farm, we buy an interest in something, that he'll have choices.
In the meantime, Brian sets his alarm for 5:30 every morning. He says it's good practice.
I wake up every day because I'm farmer.
Saves $1,000 a month. That's through hard work. Like 529 accounts, relatives and friends can also make contributions to one of these ABLE accounts. For more information about how to open one, you can check out our WCVB app.
Okay, great. I love hearing his story, so I hope you did too. This next slide is really just resources that I like to share. Additional resources if you're not familiar with ABLE, to go to learn more. The first one is the ABLE National Resource Center, or ablenrc.org. It's a fantastic site to learn more about ABLE. They compare plans. They do a ton of webinars on ABLE and sort of dissect all the ins and outs and many of the questions that pop up. And they're also on social media, so I encourage you to follow if you're on social media as well, whatever channels that you're on. Obviously, the MEFA site, we have a dedicated landing page for Attainable, which is on mefa.org, where we've also built out some local resources that, in terms of benefits counseling that might be helpful for you as well, and some local organizations. So you can find that on the MEFA site. And then to open an account, you go to fidelity.com/ABLE to the Fidelity site to open the account online. And then lastly, we do obviously a lot of webinars related to Attainable. And so if you want to find out, when there's upcoming webinars, you can sign up with your email to do that. And we're actually doing one this coming Wednesday with 3 area colleges in their disability support program that they offer, and as high school students transition. So things like that, you would find out about upcoming webinars, obviously related in the Attainable space. So feel free to, if you would like to sign up to do that. And then lastly, my email is mrubenis@mefa.org. And these are the channels that MEFA is on social as well: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, where again, we post content related to Attainable and also MEFA's content. So I encourage you to follow us there as well if you would like to, just stay in touch as to what we're posting. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then just take a peek. I know there's some questions in the Q&A. I'm just going to try to run through these. If people have questions, you can type your questions in the Q&A. So the ABLE money, you can send once you set up Someone's asking, how do you fund the account? So once you set up an Attainable account, you can transfer funds electronically, and you would link, say, a checking account with obviously the routing number to Attainable, and then you could move funds electronically to transfer money. And also on the flip side, when you're spending the account, you move money from Attainable or the Able account into, say, a checking account, and then pay your bills. And I will mention here, Fidelity offers some great free digital tools that you can take advantage of that help you to manage the account, because we tell people definitely keep track of how you spend it, in terms of, categorize and track expenses. So the first one, and in order to do that, you have to, it's a cash management account, which is a free checking account that they offer, which comes with a free debit card, free check writing. You link that to Attainable, and then you would move the funds from Attainable to the CMA and then pay your bills. If you have that cash management account, you can also link to something called Full View that they offer, which allows you to see all your accounts with them in one place and to track and categorize expenses, which is helpful for an Able account owner. So yeah, so I just mentioned that just as a way to, kind of have some ease of use and keeping track of things. So I'm just going to make sure, just make sure that I'm not missing a question here. Someone's asking, I will email the PowerPoint slides. So anyone that registered, I recorded it, so they will get a recording, and I'll also send a PDF of the slides. Someone's asking, can money be saved and not used for extended periods? Is there a certain amount that has to be used annually? And what documentation is needed to account for spending on eligible expenses? So yes, you can save money and not use it for an extended period of time. That's perfectly fine. There is not a certain amount that you have to spend annually. So the answer to that is no. And in terms of documenting, needing to account for spending on eligible expenses, I mean, that's really the onus of how you spend it for qualified expenses is on the account owner. So you obviously need to spend it the way it's intended, and then just keep track of that in terms of how you're spending it, whether, receipts or however you want to do it, like you would for other tax purposes. You would just keep track of that. And that's why I mentioned that Fidelity has this Full View, which allows you to do it online, which is a little bit easier, and to link and see all your accounts in one place. So it's a nice feature that they offer. I hope that answers that. How does this coincide with the account you have set up for the SSI monthly deposit? Should it be a separate account? We recently had a 3-year review and she was over, so they're taking her entire back. So in terms of benefits, I'm not a benefits person. I definitely would encourage you to reach out to someone who works in that space, a benefits counselor. There are 2 within the state of Massachusetts that do benefits counseling, and it's geographically, it's based on where you live. So it's a geographic, they work with you based on where you are geographically in the state. One is Mass Rehab Commission, and this information is on the MEFA site as well under the Attainable page. And the other is Work Without Limits. They both split the state based on, again, where you're living, and they can help you. It's a free service that they offer to manage all of that in terms of the benefits piece and managing that. So in terms of that, I have heard that it's better to set up a separate account that Social Security money goes into, and then you obviously use that money the way it's intended. But then if there is any money left over, you can put it into Able. But I've heard that it's a good idea to have it separated, right, like you normally would, and have it go into that account from Social Security. Someone's asking, how does any residual balances transfer at the death of the account owner? So when an account owner passes away, the money in an Able account goes to that individual's estate. So yes, you should have a will. In Massachusetts, and this exists whether you have an Able account or not, There is something called a Medicaid clawback, and that exists in some states. Again, nothing to do with ABLE, it's a Medicaid thing, but the Medicaid clawback exists here. And so how that relates to ABLE is if that individual received any Medicaid payments only from, it would only relate to ABLE from the time the account is opened until they're passing. The state, they use the language may or have the potential to claw back some of the money that they paid out to that individual from the ABLE account. Like I said, it exists whether you have ABLE or not. So they could potentially claw back some money minus any premiums that individual paid. They could potentially claw back some of that money. My understanding, the only way to avoid it is through a trust. So that would be something that you would talk about, obviously, with somebody who is a tax attorney or somebody in that space, financial planner, that type of thing. If grandparents want to transfer the title to a home and net proceeds from a family business undervalues 500K, will there be a loss of SSI benefits? You would have to, that would be a benefits person question, somebody who, again, is working in that space, to ask them that. That's a question for them. Are there limits to how much can be contributed by non-beneficiaries? No, there are no limits on that. Again, you have to stay, up to the 15K is the contribution limit in the calendar year. Are contributions tax deductible or exempt? So the contributions go in post-tax. So all the contributions are post-tax. The earnings in an ABLE account are exempt from federal and in Massachusetts state income tax, as long as you spend it on qualified expenses. Have parents used this type of account to manage participant-directed programs to run the business to pay staff and bills? That I do not know. I do not know how parents are using for that program. In the video, buying a farm was mentioned as an option. What are rules around such investments? Well, they're looking at that as an employment option for him. So employment training. So hence why that came up in the video. Is there a list of individuals who do special needs trusts on a sliding scale basis across the state? I would check. I think there's an association of, I think there's a Special Needs Alliance who may have a list of special needs financial planners. You could go there and try to learn more, I guess, by Googling and trying to find that. I'm sure that there are. I can't make a recommendation for financial planning to you around that in that space. I think I caught up with some of the questions here, so I'll just pause a little bit if anyone else has any additional questions. But I will send the recording, like I mentioned, a PDF of the slides. Highly encourage you to go to both the MEFA site and ABLE National Resource to learn more. There are different resources, obviously local resources on the MEFA site, and then ABLE National Resource, like I mentioned, they have a lot of webinars and really took away at a lot of the questions that come up. And a good thing to mention here is they have a comparison chart that compares ABLE to special needs trusts. You might be interested in looking at that, and they talk about the distinct benefits between the two and how you can pay certain things from each. So that's a good thing to look for as well. I highly recommend that. It's a good resource. And I do tell people, if you can do both, absolutely do both. Obviously they have distinct benefits, a trust, special needs trust, and an ABLE account. They both have distinct benefits. So if you have the opportunity to have both is a good thing. ABLE offers you the advantage of access to the funds right away. You can set it up yourself. You don't have to pay someone to do it for you. That's a big benefit. All right, so I'm just kind of over here. I think I caught up with some of these questions, but just making sure. see anybody else asking anything. So I'll wait a few more minutes. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to post them in the Q&A. All right, well, if, oops, looks like there's one more. So on the ABLE National Resource, so I'll put it in the chat. The ABLE, ablenrc.org has the ABLE and Special Needs Trust Comparison Chart. Someone asked, can the ABLE account be passed on to the responsibility to another trusted person upon the death of the primary? Yes, you could change the PSA on an ABLE account if need be. Does the individual have to be under 26 when the account is set up? So no, so the age requirement is just associated with the disability. So someone could be over 26 and as long as the disability occurred prior to the age of 26, and as long as they have documentation that can state that, then you potentially might be older. You might be 28 and not have gotten diagnosed with whatever the disability might be. But if you can have an MD that says, yes, this was occurring prior to the age of 26, then you're eligible to open it. So the 26 is the age of the disability has to have occurred prior to the age of 26, if that makes sense. And I will tell you that there is a pending bill to raise the age to 46, because obviously a lot of people have disabilities occur later in life. So there is a ABLE Age Adjustment Act bill that's trying to get passed to raise the age so that people that do have a disability occur later in life are eligible to open one of these accounts. But I'll put it in the chat, the comparison chart. I'm just going to minimize this. It's ablenrc.org. It's the comparison chart. So it's ablenrc.org. Even try to find it potentially. Let's see. Yeah, we'll have to poke around here in the site. This is the ABLE. Hopefully you can see. Oh, you can't see my screen. Sorry. Here, let me screen share. This is the ABLE NRC site. And you would just go here and look, and there's a search button, which somehow I'm missing because I'm sharing screens here, but you can search here for the chart, and it's on this ABLE National Resource Center, or ablenrc.org site. And then there's another question. How does ABLE know how you spend your money? Again, you have to spend the money the way it's intended for these qualified expenses. That part of it is on the account owner to spend it the way it's intended. Obviously all the programs report their money just like a regular bank account, your regular checking or savings account. Those numbers get reported to the IRS. So same thing for these ABLE accounts. The account information does get reported to the IRS. So certainly you need to spend it the way it's intended for these qualified expenses. And then just keep track of that. Keep track of how you're spending it. it's on this site here, the comparison chart. And they have webinars and guides. Like I said, comparing state programs. Here it is. Oh, that's the state comparison tool feature, but the chart is here as well. All right, I guess if no one else has any additional questions, I will probably, here, I'll stop sharing my screen. I'll wait just a couple more minutes to see if anyone else has any additional questions. And if not, then I will end the webinar. And like I said, once it's ready, we'll send the recording and PDF of the slides. You're welcome. Thanks for joining today. I'm glad it was informative. It's a lot to learn. Like I said, if you haven't, if this is your first time hearing it, honestly, I tell people you need to hear it more than once. And the more you can educate yourself and learn about the program and learn about the benefits and what the accounts offer, the better. Just like anything. So I highly encourage you to do that. Go to ABLE National Resource, go to the MEFA site and learn more. So Linda, I know you're raising your hand, but because it's a webinar, I can't unmute you, or so if you want to ask a question, ask it in the Q&A. This is a Zoom webinar, which is a little bit different. It's not as interactive as Zoom meeting, where I can actually see you and you can unmute yourself or I can unmute you. So if you have a question, feel free to ask it in the chat. Oh, here's a few more. Okay, great. Any account protection put in place for owners that can't manage withdrawals on their own? Yes, you can set up what's called a PSA, or person with signature authority, who would also be on the account, the ABLE account, and be able to manage it for the account owner. The PSA has to be a parent, a guardian, or a power of attorney. So if they needed to manage it for a minor, or if they needed to manage it for an adult that wasn't able to manage it on their own, you can set up the account so that this PSA is also on the account and they would manage the account for the ABLE account owner. You're welcome. Thanks, Eliana, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Okay, I learned a lot and feel much more prepared to share resources. You're welcome. Thank you, Megan. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, feel free to reach out. Sorry about it got scheduled in Zoom webinar, which is a little bit less interactive, but happy to do another one of these if people are interested, if organization, is interested in doing another. I'm happy to do it again for families. Like I said, the more you hear it, the better. Sometimes it can take, 3 times before. Brian's mom, Ann Guay, tells me that a lot of times, each time we do one of these together, she learns something new based on questions that people ask and just in general. So it definitely helps to hear it more than once to learn more. But like I said, go to the MEFA site as well to learn more. And we also do webinars. I really try to do webinars that intersect somewhere in the disability space. So we are doing one this coming Wednesday at noon with 3 area colleges around high school students who are on an IEP. As they transition from high school, the IEP doesn't follow you to college. So how to best support them in doing so and finding resources on campus. So we are doing a webinar with 3 area schools and their disability support offices around helping students transition. So we always look to combine the content as well in a situation that makes sense, and that certainly does. So that's something else you can look for on the MEFA site. It would be under events, and then you could register for the webinar and you would get a link to join that day. All right, well, I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. I will also, here, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. if you have any questions, reach out. Happy to answer. That's my email. Feel free to reach out if you have additional questions. I put the fidelity.com/attainable. That's where you would go to open an account. And then lastly, the 800 number where you can call and they can answer any questions related to the account at Fidelity is 844-458-2253. They can help you, walk you through opening the account by calling them. You could have them on the phone and then be online, and they can help you to open the account online, especially if you're going to attach the PSA to it. That's helpful to do that. They're happy to walk you through it, or if you have questions related to the portfolios or just setting up the account. There's no minimum. Hi, Ida. There's no minimum that you need to set up the account. So, I mean, you could open an account with, $20. There is no minimum that you need to open the account with. And I tell people, if you are thinking of potentially about opening one, it definitely helps to go to the site first, especially to look at the portfolios, just to get a sense as to what you might be interested in. And then, like I said, you could be online and call that number, the 844 number, and they can answer any questions that you might have. Okay, I think we caught up on questions. And okay. I will probably, I think, stop the webinar at this point if there's no more questions. It doesn't look like there is. So thank you everyone for joining, and I hope it was helpful, and have a good rest of your day, and be on the lookout for the recording and the PDF of the PowerPoint slides that you can look at when it's convenient for you. All right, take care. Have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye.